share a lot of natural pregnancy, natural childbirth, and natural parenting videos. And if you're not new here, then welcome back. It has been a minute, actually it has been so long. Last week I uploaded an induction video about acupuncture, getting pregnant fast using acupuncture. I have not filmed a video for you guys in 3 months. If you didn't already know, I am pregnant with baby number 2. We are so excited, but I'm not gonna lie, we're also a little bit nervous. We know how much life changes when you have a baby, so now that we're aware of how much life changes, we expect it to be a little bit crazy. I want to sit down with you guys today and fill you in on everything that's been happening in my pregnancy the last 3 months, so basically my entire first trimester. I'm going to talk about how we found out we were pregnant, how we got pregnant with baby number 2, symptoms, what to expect if you have a midwife. Okay, so first things first, how we conceived baby number 2. If you haven't seen my video, I think I made it about a year ago now. It was how we conceived baby number 1. Baby number 2 was not planned. I mean, we knew that we wanted to have our babies close in age, and we were kind of like, well, we're in that stage right now, you know, so if we get pregnant, great, and if not, that's fine too. So to be honest with you, we didn't do anything differently. I didn't cut out alcohol like I did last time. I was still having the odd glass of wine. I was kind of just eating very intuitively. So I still eat healthy all the time. But obviously if I'm craving something, or I feel like eating something, or we feel like Indian food, or we feel like burgers, you know, we eat them. Honestly, I think the reason why was because we weren't even thinking about it at all. I think if we had been trying to get pregnant that entire time and then we didn't, we'd be like, oh my gosh, we're still not pregnant. I had fairly irregular periods because I was still breastfeeding. It was 2 months after Kai's first birthday. He was 14 months and I was still nursing him. I started to get my periods back when Kai was 10 months old, but they were so irregular. So I was getting them, but they wouldn't be 28-day cycles. They would be anywhere from 28 to 35-day cycles. But it was the weirdest thing because I texted my friends the day after I guess we conceived this baby, and I was like, oops, you know, if I get pregnant, I was making a joke. And then I just had a feeling like 2 weeks later, maybe I should take a pregnancy test, and I did, and sure enough, I was pregnant. I couldn't believe it. I was on my lunch break and I came out of the bathroom. Chris was off that day and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. I don't know, I just burst out. I think I was in shock. I didn't even tell him in a fun way this time. I just couldn't believe it. He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I'm pregnant. He's like, no, you're not. He didn't believe me at first. I didn't believe it at first either. A lot of people ask, how did you know you're pregnant leading up to that first pregnancy test? I honestly did not. And I pretty much didn't know when I was pregnant with Kai either. I didn't really have any signs and symptoms. So if you're in your 2-week wait and you're dying to take a pregnancy test and you don't have any symptoms, don't panic. Because I know you'll go on the internet and people will talk about their symptoms before having a positive pregnancy test, and they'll say like, oh, my boobs were so sore, I just knew I was pregnant. Or they'll say I had implantation bleeding when the baby implanted, so I knew I was pregnant. I didn't have any of that. Everyone is different. So if you don't have any symptoms at all leading up to that big fat positive, do not be alarmed or scared or think that you're not pregnant, because you could very well be. You're already 4 weeks pregnant basically when you find out that you're pregnant. Your pregnancy begins the first day of your last missed period. 6 weeks is when I started to feel pregnant. Okay, so I'm going to talk about weeks 6 through to 13, which is essentially your first trimester. Basically, your placenta isn't fully developed yet. It's in the process of developing, and so your hormones and your body take on a lot of the burden that the placenta takes on for the remainder of your pregnancy. That's why the first trimester is so difficult. Around 9 weeks, that's kind of when the symptoms really peak and start to really bother you, and then shortly after that, the placenta starts to take over and the exhaustion might get better, the nausea might get a little bit better depending on you personally. My ultrasound technician said that the hormone that's present in pregnancy that gives you a positive pregnancy test is the hormone that's also present in chemotherapy. And a lot of times before chemotherapy, you know, doctors, nurses, healthcare practitioners will say, if the person had been pregnant before, they'd say, you know, how was your pregnancy? Were you nauseous during pregnancy? And a lot of times the level of nausea you experience during pregnancy is a good indicator of if you'll throw up from chemotherapy, if the chemo will make you nauseous or like vomit. I did not throw up at all in my first trimester. I didn't throw up in my first pregnancy. I definitely don't have a weak stomach. I've never had food poisoning and I've eaten some weird foods. I've never thrown up from going like spinning a lot on a ride, so I'm not the type of person that is like really affected in that way by different things, but I still got nauseous. So like I still just felt bleh all the time. It was just like a looming bleh grossness. Like you just felt gross all the time. Felt nauseous all the time. If I stood up, you know, I would just feel like, oh my gosh, and I'd have to brace myself and hold the counter. Just because I wasn't throwing up doesn't mean sometimes I wished that I could throw up, because I was feeling like, just get it out. I did experience a lot of headaches. Some headaches are normal because of the change in hormones and just the change in your body overall, but not always. I ended up figuring out that what I was experiencing was very much normal. You can take Tylenol when you're pregnant, but you can't take anything else. I don't typically take Tylenol or anything at all, but what I remember one time my headache was so bad that I needed one, and it did help. I have had a rough 3 months. I'm gonna be real with you guys. Like, Chris was away, my husband Chris. He found out he got a new job the same day I found out I was pregnant. So his new job is in his field that he loves, and we are so excited, and it's such a blessing for our family. But the implication for the new job involved him going away for 3 months to do training, very job specific training. We did see each other on weekends, luckily, and it was my entire first trimester. And those of you who know me know I have a 1-year-old at home, so it was just me, and I live in a different city than my family, not my husband's family, luckily. It was hard. Like, I would put Kai to bed.
Nut.
Love you.
Hello.
Love you more. Good night, baby. Love you.
Hello.
And then just crawl into bed for a second and be like, I just need a breather. I just need to lay down for 1 second. And dishes would still be in the sink. Like, I wouldn't have cleaned up for dinner yet. I would literally just feed myself and feed Kai, make sure we were fed, go get him ready for bed. So I would crawl into bed for like a second, and then before I knew it, I would wake up and it was like 3 a.m. and I still had clothes on and the kitchen was a mess, and this was my life for 3 months. Actually got them done tonight. Everything took me longer. I couldn't keep up with the housework while taking care of a toddler and being pregnant. It just wasn't possible, and I'm still working. So it was just too much for me. It was hard, not to mention I'm a very emotional first trimester pregnancy person. Also, when I'm postpartum, I'm really emotional. So like, things that wouldn't make me emotional or wouldn't make me cry typically like made me cry. And I remember saying this to my midwife. I was like, sad things that are just sad like make me so much more sad. And I remember just like grieving that my husband wasn't there and feeling so upset and so sad and struggling. I'm like, Bailey, you need to pick yourself up. Like, you need to get your shit together. Another thing that happened to me in the first trimester was my milk dried up. This doesn't always happen. Every woman is different. I was very rarely nursing Kai. Like, Kai was down to nursing in the morning and then before bed. So twice a day. He was sleeping all the way through the night. I don't think I dried up completely, but I could tell that I was drying up because I was just so, like, I did not like nursing. It felt like there was just a leech attached to me with just no purpose. I know that sounds so bad because he's my son. My breast milk gave him life for so long, but I just got to the point where I was so uncomfortable with it. And it wasn't because I had sensitive nipples. I honestly didn't at all. I was just so uncomfortable with the feeling of like a leech being like latched onto me. And I think it was because there was no milk. There was no letdown. And it was a really easy transition. Around 15 months, Kai stopped breastfeeding. Now my body can just focus on using all of those calories that it was using for breast milk towards me and my baby. So I didn't have any food aversions this pregnancy so far in the first trimester. I would still get that feeling where sometimes I would make myself a meal or someone would make me a meal and it sounded so good and I was so hungry, and then it'd be in front of me and I'd be like, I cannot eat this. I just can't. And there'd be no reason. My husband would be like, why can't you eat it? And I'd say, ugh. I just can't. And it just isn't appetizing all of a sudden. You smell it or you look at it and then you just feel sick. A go-to thing that never made me feel sick was cereal. I knew that I could always count on cereal, and then always fresh fruit, like nice cold juicy fruit. And that's for nourishment. I mean, I craved fat food all the time this pregnancy. Like, it is crazy the food that I have wanted. I don't eat sour candy. I don't even eat candy ever. But all I wanted this pregnancy are cherry blasters. I'll like go to the corner store so that I can buy cherry blasters. It is very unlike me. And then I really crave lemonade. Tim Hortons makes this amazing frozen slushy lemonade. I'm all about the lemonade now, and I love it so much. The whole thing where they say women crave pickles during pregnancy, I get that. It's like the bitter sourness that just makes you feel better. It relieves the nausea and just fulfills all your food dreams. I can't get it open. No, I tried. You do it. Oh my gosh. What would I do without you around? I also didn't put on any weight in the first trimester. My first pregnancy, I put on 35 pounds. And they say if you're in a normal weight range to start with, then 25 to 35 pounds is considered healthy. If you start your pregnancy overweight, then they don't want you to put on as much weight. So I think it's under 25 pounds. And then if you start your pregnancy underweight, they want you to put on more weight during your pregnancy. I actually put on 35 pounds and I was surprised. I thought I would be closer to the 25 pound mark because I didn't put on any weight in the first trimester in my first pregnancy. Second trimester I put on 12 pounds, which left 23 pounds that I put on in the third trimester. They say you gain about a pound a week in the third trimester, and I was definitely hitting that mark and then some. And now I want to talk to you guys about midwife appointments and how it works. If you're considering seeing a midwife as opposed to an obstetrician, or you're curious about the work that a midwife does or can do for you during pregnancy, I would highly suggest a midwife. I get 45-minute appointments and we sit down, we talk about everything, and I feel like I'm talking to a friend, but a far more informed friend who's giving me information on everything that I need to know and giving me the option to make an informed choice. My first ever appointment was at 11 weeks, and that's normally when you first go in, and then your healthcare practitioner will write you a requisition for an ultrasound. And the first ultrasound that you typically get during pregnancy is called a dating ultrasound, and the measurement of the baby within that time frame gives a more accurate prediction of kind of when the baby will come. Based on my personal calculations of when the first day of my last missed period, 40 weeks after that would have been December 3rd, 2019. Then when I went into my dating ultrasound, the ultrasound technician said, oh, you can leave your date the same. This baby is measuring December 4th, 2019. It showed the exact gestational age of the baby at that point, and the gestational age indicated a birthday early December, which was only one day off from my guess. If you're a first-time mom, expect to be late. If you're a second-time mom and you were late the first time, expect to be late again. I had 2 ultrasounds in the first trimester. The second ultrasound was the ultrasound where they check for genetic anomalies, things like Down syndrome and all of that. They can actually look at the chromosomal markers to just see if you have a chance of having a baby with Down syndrome or some sort of other genetic abnormality. A lot of times this isn't necessarily fairly accurate. It's not representative of what could happen because it will give you like a likelihood. It came back basically saying everything looked good, like your chances of having a baby with Down syndrome are very slim. There were no concerns whatsoever, but sometimes they will advise further testing if you want further testing. And the further testing is very invasive. There's like amniocentesis and different things that they'll do that are invasive that have the potential to cause miscarriage. And so like personally, if they had told me that I had maybe a chance of having a baby with Down syndrome, I mean, I've never really weighed it out. I've never been put in that position before, but I feel as though just thinking about how invasive further procedures are, I wouldn't take the risk. I would just say I'll find out when the baby is born. In my first pregnancy, I had 3 ultrasounds in total. 2 really early on that I was just talking about, and then 1 around 20 weeks when we found out the gender of our first baby. And I'm going to do the same thing this pregnancy. The only difference is around that 13-week mark, you go in and you get a lot of blood work done. And the blood work looks at all your levels. So it looks at your iron levels. It's just a lot of things they look at. Everything looked good on my blood test. I was concerned about my iron levels. I thought for sure I had low iron because I had no energy. My sister-in-law kept saying, "You're having a girl, you're having a girl." I had really low iron levels with both my girls and I felt so exhausted, and I had to go on iron supplements and felt so much better. When my blood work came back, I was like, "What was my iron levels?" And she said 132, which is actually really good. She said average level when we get concerned is about 95. So I was way above that. She did say that all my levels looked good except for one, and it's called the PIGF level. And basically what it is it's the fluid in your placenta. She said the only way to really monitor it is to do more ultrasounds in the 3rd trimester to make sure that the baby has enough fluid in order to grow and prosper. But there's nothing, like right now in the 1st trimester, there's nothing to worry about basically. So I will talk all about the next midwife appointment. I will talk about weight gain and symptoms and everything that has to do with the 2nd trimester in my next pregnancy update. The 2 biggest questions that I get asked all the time are, is this pregnancy similar to your last pregnancy, and what do you think you're having? I have answers for both of those questions that I will not tell you in this video. I will tell you in my next video, so stay tuned. My next video will be going up on Thursday, and I'll have a special guest. My husband's coming on, and we are going to do all the old wives' tales to try to guess the gender of this baby, and then we are going to compare pregnancies, and then finally tell you guys what we think we're having, and that will be the last video we put out before we know the gender. The video after that will be our gender reveal. I'm so excited to share it with you guys, so stay tuned because we have a lot of exciting things coming up. And before I leave you and finish this video off, I will show you my stomach. I feel like it's an unfair representation for you guys because as I sit here filming this, I'm actually 19 weeks pregnant. So I'm a bit bigger than I would be in the 1st trimester. I showed really early with my son. By 11 weeks, it was evident that I was pregnant. I don't think that I'm showing as much as I was showing my 1st pregnancy, which I was really surprised by. There's the belly, it's there. There's from the front. My belly button is already popped. Like, it's the weirdest thing. And it's definitely not as hard as it was the 1st time. It's got a little bit of love in front. Oh, and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out my channel, and like this video if you enjoyed it, or thumbs down it if you didn't, so then I know what other content to put out for you. Thank you guys so much for watching another video. Stay tuned for our gender reveal and our gender prediction video, which will be coming up this week, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!